I don't understand how he looked as good or better. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, Steve, that the offenses around the league look as behind like this every year. They're slow and they're sloppy, and Brock was operating like he was playing all offseason.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's teams we talk about it. I don't know, almost every week feels like, but like there's teams that haven't figured out that the game has changed, and I keep talking about it every week. And we deploy our guys so well and get them out and put pressure on defense so well without making it complicated to the quarterback. That's Andy Reid does that for Patrick. That's what Kyle does for Jimmy and for Trey and for Brock. And so when you're in that system that's like that, then if you're somebody like Brock who locks down all the data, like I'm locked down, there's no doubt I own the data, and now call a play, call anything. And I'm going to rationalize. I'm not going to be overwhelmed. I'm not going to be the fourth play of the drive, and all of a sudden I forget and I freak out and the ball flies around. I'm not sure what my reads are. That's where Brock's kind of superpower is in managing the data down to down, so that Kyle can have the faith that I can call a couple of, challenging plays in a row, and I'm going to get a quarterback that's going to rationalize through it and not have, some go haywire. And that's why Kyle, Brock, I talked about last week, Brock and Kyle, Kyle trusts Brock, and that's fundamental, because now Kyle, who's a very good play caller, people say Kyle he's a great run, innovative run guy, or he likes to, no, Kyle likes Sean McVay, like Sean Payton, like Andy Reid, like what's going on, like Mike McDaniel. You can see why how's Tua? Tua's a good player.
Yeah,
could be great, but Tua's a good player, and Jalen Hurts a good player. They're now getting the opportunity to take the innovation that's allowed in the NFL. If you'll take it, half the teams don't, and then you lean into it, and all of a sudden you've got a plan, and you're going to be a lot better. And that's where the 49ers are. We have the best players, best offensive line, and a great innovative mind. I say it every week, and Brock gets it. And when I say the fours, whatever, he gets it. And there's certain quarterbacks that are great, talented, amazing throwers of the football who don't get it as well, and they never will. But he does, and so you can lean into that. Now, you saw one I will say about Brock last week. He is not as big, and when he was standing waiting, I don't know who he was waiting for, and TJ came around and just slapped it out of his hand, and Brock never saw him. That's a part of me that feels like he's still young. No, people come free. There should be a sixth sense,
an awareness, right? Yeah.
You saw it when it was coming straight at him.
The spidey sense kicks in. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's things to get better at. There's throws that he probably would take back, but just like I told last week, the guardrails for Brock's game are pretty narrow. Yeah. Right? He's not going to run over the field and throw it 80 yards down the field. Not going to happen. And also, you're not going to get the crazy ball all over the place, 3 interceptions, kind of game. So you're going to get a pretty tight window. And with this team, with this defense, who's going to score 30 on these guys? Right? Who's going to score 30? Maybe there's 4 teams that can score 30 on these guys.
Bengals, they play later this year. We'll see what they look like. I don't know. The team's capable, but still, I don't know.
Maybe one week they just don't show up out of 17.
Yeah, that's possible.
That's about it.
That's about it. But then there's no way that both sides don't show up, right? The defense but I don't know. I hate to say after one game that we're good, but it feels like we have all the things moving now. In the NFL, you go down to the Rams. Matthew Stafford can throw for 400 yards, so we'll see how it goes. He's capable of doing that. So every week something else. So
I think, Steve, you mentioned trust between obviously Purdy and Kyle, and we saw that develop last year pretty quick, and now obviously it's incredibly high. The amount of trust that Kyle had in Purdy to just shoot down the possibility of anybody else being his quarterback this offseason, despite the fact that Purdy didn't have a functioning elbow for most of the time. Right. That tells you he trusts him a lot, and he really wanted 100%. Him to be his quarterback, and that's great. What I saw in addition to that, and I want to get your take on this, is Purdy trusting his guys, and that feels like the next step in the evolution of a young quarterback. Okay, my coach trusts me implicitly. Now I trust my dudes to go out and make plays, and I specifically think about the second touchdown throw to Brandon Ayuk. Put the ball in a good spot, let my dude make a play against Patrick Peterson, who might as well be wearing Brandon Ayuk's jersey during the play. What did you make of that?
I would think about it not that he trusts his guys, because the truth is those guys are going to be in the spot. It's, can I work through I guess it was a route that was supposed to go left, and he saw the one-on-one and took it.
Yeah.
It's really the trust that I have in myself to know where people are going to be. Like, you talk about George, you talk about Devo, you're talking about CFC. They're going to be in the right spot. CMC, they're going to be in the right spot. So I don't think it's as much about Brock trusting his guys as it is Brock understanding where they're going to be and being ahead of it. So that he can get the ball out. In the NFL, you got to be ahead of it, and that's where the processing power and that owning the data that I just talked about.
Yeah. And
that's why the team chose him, right? The team chose Brock.
Absolutely.
Because they sensed that in the huddle, this guy's ahead of it. He's not even a lot of the NFL quarterbacks that you just hope that are kind of with it. Most of them are behind it. Like, and you can smell it in the huddle. The guy's calling the play, and you can see in his eyes he's not sure what the play is, not sure what the motion is. And then he runs the play, and he's behind it, and then the ball's flying around. The team's like, oh crap, we're dead. And it doesn't take many plays like that where the guys on the field smell it. They're like, oh, I mean, you hear the whispers, right? Oh, we're in trouble. And so that's why Brock never gives them that sense. He always gives them the sense that I got this. We're good. Call the play, we're good. And then something happens, it's rationalized. The team's on the field and they see what happens. They're like, it's rational to their minds. That seems like this kind of thing that would come out of this play. This is the kind of thing that would happen if we called that play. And the more that happens, the more the team's like, yeah, it's like a momentum thing where you get that momentum, and then because Brock is locked down, it's not a momentum that's now going to go haywire. A lot of guys can get hot, then they can get, kind of get in a groove, and then all of a sudden freaking things go haywire.
Yeah. And
that's the thing that why Kyle's so happy about this, is because I have somebody that's not going to get into a momentum play and then fall apart on me. Yeah. He's not going to do three things. He's not going to do 2 or 3 things wrong in a row. He might make a mistake, but he's not going to make a mistake again and then the next one. And then so that's why I said last week, it's just going to come down to those end games when he's going to have to make some big boy plays to make it all the way.
One thing that stood out to me just watching the game on the Fox feed, early in the contest, they kept cutting close to Purdy's face before the snap, and his eyes were like maniacal. They were everywhere, but it didn't feel like he didn't know what was happening. It looked as if he was some sort of robot taking in every possible piece of information really, really fast. It stood out to me as wildly impressive. Did you see those shots, and what did you make of it as someone who's been in that line of fire before?
Again, because you can have the same look and be behind it, because you're looking around like, I don't know who's where, I don't know, there's safety.
Yeah.
It seems like there's 30 guys on the field, I don't know. Or I'm now ahead of it, so now I'm looking for stuff.
Yeah.
I'm watching for the movements. I'm seeing subtle movements in safeties to try to get the angles. I know what's coming. Is George going to have an angle on that backer? When you're ahead of it, football gets so much easier. You snap the ball, and you have a plan. Where most of the time, you think even the pros, if you snap the ball in the corner, it's like, I think I'm going to I'm telling you, the unseen things that happen on the field, and that's why when I say the guardrails are pretty narrow. Because, first of all, the upside of Brock being able to do a Patrick Mahomes kind of crazy stuff and throw, that's not going to happen. So in that way, Brock doesn't have – you don't have to worry about him getting too far like Josh Allen last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Josh, stop. He puts on a Superman cape, and he's like, I'm going to do something super every play.
Let's hit some singles here, Josh.
No, just stop. Even on third down, he's like, well, I threw the long ball. It's like a punt. Well, no, you know what? Throw it out of bounds and let the punter punt. Let the team do their job, and and I would say to him what I said to Patrick Mahomes a couple of years ago, and Patrick really did make the change. He was making all kinds of Superman plays and all kind of craziness, and they would get the playoffs, and then there wasn't enough Superman plays to play. You got to actually play the position. Mm-hmm. And Patrick, to his credit, went back and said, look, I'm going to be an 80% thrower, 75% thrower. The ball's going to come out. I can still be Superman. I can still do that, but my fundamental of what I do as a player is the fundamental part of the job. Call the play, get it out in people's hands, let them do their part, and then put that pressure on defenses down after down after down. And then all of a sudden, when I need to be Superman, things are wide open because I'm not overdoing that Superman thing. So Patrick becomes so much more dangerous than he was 2 or 3 years ago. I need Josh Allen. He needs 2 things. He needs more help at running back. He needs something to take the pressure off him. And then he has to stop being Superman. Like, knock it off. You can't be Superman in the NFL. If we need you to be Superman, we're dead. What we need you to be is a great, efficient, superior, sophisticated thrower of the football, down to down, and then have the ability to do Superman-like things every once in a while. And after the game, Josh is like, yeah, it's another game. I can't believe I let that happen. Like, bro, whoever's telling you that this is the way to play football is telling you the wrong thing. Stop. And it reminded me, I said this last week, it reminds me of Andrew Luck. Like, they expect him to do all this amazing, spectacular things every week, and they run you aground. And the camp, I don't know how we got on this, but
a lot of Superman talk. A lot of
what happened to Cam Newton, the guy who fashioned himself Superman? Did it for a year. Then what happened?
What I'm saying is trying to be hero ball.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to go out and do something super special. And we're like, man, Josh Allen jumped over some guy and spun around and threw behind his back 40 yards. It was amazing. Like, okay.
They win.
That's not going to get you a Super Bowl. What's going to get you a Super Bowl is efficient, sophisticated throwing the football, dropping it off, down to down, doing the job out of the huddle, and that's why. Yeah, maybe Brock can't do all that Superman stuff, but maybe it's better off in some ways because get it to the Supermen around him.
Yeah.
Down to down, let them go spin around and make some great plays. And then all of a sudden Brock needs to break off 18 yards to kind of, to make a big first down in the third, was it late third or early fourth?
Yeah.
And you get it. So I don't know. I think Brock's in a great spot because he doesn't have to worry about doing too much. He's also smart enough not to do too little. And I think there's a great space for him, and that's what's going to make them so tough to beat week to week because you're going to get really efficient play in the offense, and you're going to nails defense, not going to give up 21 points.